Hello, it's Karen Knott here, welcoming you to another interview in the Primetime Business Women in Action series. And the aim of this interview series is to share the authentic, real life experiences of those who are out there actually doing it, and to hopefully provide information and a fair bit of inspiration too to those who are following or maybe thinking of following in their footsteps. So I'm really delighted today to welcome my guest, who you can probably see here on the screen next to me. It's Jo Tocher from lifeaftermiscarriage.com. Hi, Jo.
Hello, Karen. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's really good that you've come here. I've been waiting to interview you for a long time. So, Jo, I know the clue's in the title of your website, but just start the ball rolling by telling us a little bit about, the business that you've got at the moment and what you actually do.
Okay. So I help women through miscarriage. I mentor them through miscarriage. And I've started this business fairly recently because I felt that there was a huge need out there. Women have leave the hospital, get home, and really are on their own. It's a lonely time. You feel very isolated, and there's really no one to turn to. Your hospitals really are too busy to do much with aftercare. There may be some counselling offered, but most women are on their own. And I recently conducted a survey around this, and a staggering 95% of women had no help after a miscarriage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good grief. What, they were just sent home and basically have to find their own way through it.
Exactly. And having been there myself, I know that that's not easy. And I just wanted to provide a service, something very dear to my heart. And I wanted to help people through this. And, for me, it's just a wonderful thing for me to be doing. It feels like I've come full circle from my tragedy to actually now getting to my place of meaning and helping other people through their loss.
It's interesting that you say, Jo, that you've come full circle. And that's something I really want to sort of talk to you about in this chat, because I know that your business has sort of shifted and changed over the years, as has mine, because that's what businesses do, don't they? They evolve over time. But I think it's really useful for those who are just starting out and perhaps thinking of setting up a business, for them to realize that the business they start with, it's quite likely isn't going to be the same business they have in 5 years down the line. So it would be really useful if you can just sort of take us back and recap. What were you doing? Take us right back to the beginning. What were you doing which made you decide to start your first business, and take us through that loop?
Okay. Well, I was working up in the City of London in a corporate business, and I was working in the marketing department for a company called the London International Financial Futures Exchange, and I would help them organise their conferences, their exhibitions, and basically their marketing outside of the office. And it was very busy, and it was a really great job. I loved it. I also organised the business travel for members of the staff. It was great fun, and it was a fantastic company to work for back in the 90s and early 90s. It was, there was lots going on. There was lots of fun, lots of parties, lots of dancing on the tables. Well, not quite, but there was always some function to go to. And the people that I worked with were just a really great bunch of people. And it really was a fantastic job. I absolutely loved it. However, I unexpectedly fell pregnant after I'd been there about 5 years. And I was with who is my husband now, but my boyfriend. And we weren't planning. We weren't married. We were living together, but we weren't planning a family at this point. So it was a bit of a shock to us all. However, once we got our heads around it and came to the conclusion that we would like to keep the baby, and we were excited about it and happy about it. So when we got to week 12, we announced to everybody at work, to our friends and our family, and everybody at work was delighted, and it was all going fine, and I was able to get my appointments to go off and do my scans and whatever else I wanted to do. And it was at the time when I went to go and have my 20-week scan. I was slightly late because we were waiting for the appointments. Quite often I was 2 or 3 weeks later. So I popped along, and I was thinking it was going to be just a routine. I said to my husband, no, you didn't have to come, because I was just going to pop in. It'll be 5 minutes. He was busy doing something at work. So off I went and lay down on the couch, and as the stenographer got out her thing, what's it called, when they put the cold jelly on, and
the thingy,
cold thing, can't remember what it's called, and had a look, and suddenly went very quiet and screen away. And I thought to myself, okay, she doesn't actually need to say anything. Something's not right. So she was there for a bit longer, and then she said, I'll be back in a minute. So I was left in the room on my own thinking, oh, God. No, this can't be happening. This really can't be happening. It's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. And then eventually a woman came in and had a second opinion, and they were muttering away to themselves, and I was going, what's going on? Please tell me. And they told me that they could see that there was some amniotic fluid that had got inside the baby's tummy, and it wasn't developing properly. And basically the news wasn't good. I was told to go away, come back the next day and have a meeting with our consultant, bring my husband, and talk about our options. So our options weren't good. It was either let nature take its course or have a termination. So we went away, completely shell-shocked, went away for the weekend. They told us to come back on the Monday. When we went back on the Monday, you can imagine the weekend. It was just...
I can only imagine, yes.
Surreal, absolutely surreal. At one point I felt a really big pain in my stomach, and I thought, oh, what's going on there? But anyway, when we got back in on Monday, we went into the stenographer's office again for another scan, and they told me that the baby had died. Even though I knew it was going to happen, possibly, I just wasn't ready for it. And it was it was just such a terrible time, really, really awful. So I was booked in to come back in a few days to have a termination, and I had to go through the whole labour with morphine to help me through the pain. And we delivered. We'd found out that we had a little boy, delivered, and it was one of the saddest and most traumatic days of my life, and my husband's too. So to cut a long story short, we were sent home after I'd spent one night in hospital, sent home, and then left to get on with it, really. My GP phoned me just to see if I was okay. And obviously we didn't have family here in the UK, so there wasn't, it was a very lonely time. There wasn't people around apart from on the end of the phone. Friends kind of came, some friends didn't know what to do, so stayed away. And then you were kind of surprised by certain things that happened and delighted by other things. So it was a big learning curve. But eventually I decided it was time to come back to work. And I just completely fell apart on the first day, thinking, what am I doing here? I don't like this anymore. I'm a changed person. This is not what I'm really meant to be doing. And work were great. They sent me off for some counselling. They did offer that, which helped a little bit. And I managed to stay there for about 3 or 4 months after that, and then just decided, you know what? It's not for me anymore. I'm living somebody else's dream. The chief executive, I remember he gave us all a departmental talk, And he was saying, and my dream is to make this company the biggest in the world. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's not my dream.
Yeah.
And it was just like an aha moment for me. It's just like, that is not my dream. I've got other dreams. And then I thought, well, what are my other dreams? I didn't know at that point, but I knew I had to do something bigger than I was doing at that point. So I left work, handed in my notice, and didn't, was pretty unsure of what I was going to do, but went temping for a while. And in those days, it was very easy to get temping work. And I ended up working in a company in Chelsea, which were great. And it was just time. It was an unpressurized job. I worked as a PA, had a really nice boss, and it was just time for me to be and to kind of find myself again and discover, I was always looking to see what else there was out there. And then one day I read an article in a magazine about a woman who had been through a similar thing to me, how she'd been working in a corporate company and how she'd become disillusioned by the corporate politics and just felt it wasn't for her anymore, and decided to become an aromatherapist. So at the bottom of that article, as I was reading it through, I could feel goosebumps coming and hairs standing up the back of my neck, and I started to get really excited. And at the bottom of the article, there was a taster weekend that I could book at the Tisserand Institute. So off I went for the taster weekend, came back just buzzing. I said, this is what I want to do. So I signed up, did a full-time diploma, which took a year, and absolutely loved every moment of it. And when I was there, I was introduced to energy healing. I'd never come across that before. And for people who don't know what that is, that's it's therapies along the sort of lines of Reiki, acupuncture, freedom technique. And I discovered that I really liked that healing sort of side of it as well. So after that, I got through my diploma, passed with flying colours, went to work. My first job I went to work at was at the Sanctuary in Covent Garden.
As an employee?
As a freelance.
As a freelancer, okay.
Yeah. So that was my first foray into being self-employed. And that was great. And while I was there, I fell pregnant again. And my daughter is now 18, just gone to university. So that was wonderful. And so from then, after that, I kind of worked a little bit part-time, again, just being self-employed and doing my aromatherapy in and around having babies. I had a stint working at the Portland Hospital in the physio department for a while I treated pregnant women and postnatally with baby massage, massage for women, and teaching them about aromatherapy and the oils that they could use post.
What was that difficult for you to be working with pregnant women at that time?
It wasn't actually, Karen, because I'd had Lilia, had my first child.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, and it was absolutely where my passion lay, because I just loved being around pregnant women and babies, and I'd had that experience, so I felt I could really bond with the women, having been pregnant once and going full term.
So all this time you are sort of accruing lots of different skills, aren't you?
Yes.
Your aromatherapy, your massage, and your energy work, etc. So these are all sort of, feathers in your cap, if you like. So, so what happened next then?
Well, after that, I decided that I wanted to expand on that a little bit more, and I trained in hypnotherapy, and I trained in Reiki, and I trained in various other ones. I think it was Indian head massage. So I was adding to my toolbox as I was going along.
That's a pretty comprehensive toolbox you've got there.
It is, yeah. And most recently, I trained as an energy alignment method mentor, which again is working with energy and helping people shift their stuck energy. And it was when I was doing that course that I really came to sort of think about where I'm going with my work, because I'd worked through, had all these therapies, and I was working as Joe Tocher Holistics and treating clients wherever I was. I was in Harley Street for a while, and working out of a clinic locally in North London, and able to sort of take it, increase my experience with each modality that I was learning.
Yeah.
But when I got to did the energy alignment method course, it was great because it made me really think about what I was where I wanted to go. And I was thinking that the one-on-one, clients that I was seeing was getting a little bit exhausting, especially with the massage, because it is.
And I've been doing work, isn't it?
It is, and I've been doing it really a long time, and not as fit and as young as I was when I started off. So one of the exercises that we had was to write a piece write in a journal, really, about the things that had happened in our lives that had given us the biggest aha moments, or had changed us onto a different sort of path in our life, if you like. Different crossroads. And for me, of course, that was when I had my miscarriage, because I came out of corporate and went down the holistic route. And for me, that holistic route was all about finding meaning out of tragedy and putting it to good use to help other people. So I like to think of it really as a bit of a calling. But as I was writing that, it struck me that, and I read it back and I thought, well, it was so obvious. I was staring at me in the face, that why don't I help women through miscarriage? I've got all this experience. I've had two myself, and I can really help people through it. There's such a need, because it's such a silent thing, really. People sweep it under the carpet. They don't talk about it. They're not encouraged to talk about it. It's just sort of get on with it and, try and have another baby. But you don't ever forget that loss, and it takes a long time to recover from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting listening to that story, Jo, because I think for so many of us, it's something in our past which comes out in our businesses somewhere, isn't it? And somewhere in our experience, and it's not always the good things that end up being, it's something which has affected us, which we then think, well, actually, I've been through that, and I'm now really well equipped to help other people so they don't have to suffer, or the way that I did. So it's quite a common journey, but it's one you can't shorten it, can you, in any way? You've got to it'll take its own time.
That's so true, Karen. It absolutely does take its own time. And for me, it was 20 years ago. First miscarriage. I didn't want to go there, and I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't really want to look at it, to be honest. So for me, when I had this realization of, it's the right time, you can do this now. You've come through it. You've come out the other end well and truly. It's now time to help other women.
So it's like, part of your personal evolution, isn't it, if you like, that you've got to this point. I mean, absolutely. How would you say you've actually changed over that time? You personally changed, as your businesses have changed, how have you changed as well?
I think I've grown more confident, definitely, with each step that I've taken. And you sort of get to one point and you think, okay, I'm ready to take the next step now. So you kind of slowly build up these steps. So I've become more grounded, more self-assured. I'm not really looking for the next sparkly attraction out there, but I've had certain steps leading up to, and was always very interested in lots of different things that were going on. I suppose it's just a natural curiosity. But I'm glad I've done all those things, because it's taken me on to the next thing. Because I got to a point where this is okay for now, but it's not going to be forever. So I think I've taken then another step to move on to the next stage.
There's what's that? There's that say, a quotation or something. You don't have to be able to see the entire staircase. You just need to get on the first step. And I think that's really true, don't you? Because you know, when you're at the bottom, you've no idea where the journey is actually going to take you, but that shouldn't stop you from just, you know, taking it step by step.
Absolutely, I totally agree, Karen. Absolutely, it's really interesting when you look back at the steps you end up taking.
Yeah, I think when you look back as well, you can almost sort of, you can see your evolution, can't you? You know, it's sort of, that makes sense. Yes, you know, now I can see why I did that after that. But I think it's easy with hindsight, but at the start of your journey, you just, you maybe not quite sure how all these little pieces of your particular puzzle are going to end up fitting together. But they do, don't they?
They all do. They all do. They all do. And it's just having the, I think it's just having the guts. I'm saying guts, but to listen to your intuition and to
that's such a big one.
Steps.
Yeah.
Take the steps, because I think at the end of the day, even if it doesn't work out, you've learned something.
Yeah.
It's not wasted.
Yeah.
And it's taken you on to think, okay, well, that wasn't right, but it doesn't matter because I've learned this and this and this. Let's try this now.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have an attitude whereby you are curious and go for it. Let's just go for it. What can I lose at the end of the day? It's that book that Susan Jeffries wrote, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Yeah. It's such a truism, though, isn't it? That, you know, sometimes you just got to do it. And like you say, you know, what's the worst that's going to happen? Okay, you know, it may not have worked out exactly the way you'd anticipated, but you'll always have gained something from that experience. So, you know, but what would you say has been, you know, when you look back over your journey, what would you say has been the most challenging part of your business journey?
Well, I suppose it was the reinventions possibly were the most challenging, because people get to know you as one thing and then, oh, you're doing this now. Okay. I suppose in my field, I was always in the same field. It was always holistic well-being. So it wasn't coming out of that particularly, but I suppose it was challenging in that, you know, I've had to have this is my third website now. So, you know, people get to know you for one thing and then you're got a different name under you're doing a different thing. So this is,
but you know, I think people who've known you over the years can see that a thread that's gone through everything that you've done. It's not like one minute you're sort of, I don't know, selling, I don't know, conkers or something, and then the next minute you're selling something else. There's always been this sort of holistic thread that's run all the way through the things that you've done.
True.
Isn't it? You know, there's been that core element that you've sort of built on over the years. But
yes, that's absolutely true. But I would say probably getting back to challenges again, it's when you do reinvent or restart something new, it's just, you know, in the beginning you have to then find the customers, find the clients, find people to, you know, show your work to, who's going to love you and buy it from you.
Yes.
So that's challenging, but it's, you know, you get there and you just have, people can see, I think, your passion, and they can see that you're authentic, and you word of mouth and networking and all those things just help.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing for each business though, isn't it? It's sort of, you know, you have to be very clear on who it is you are helping, and you have to get your message out about how you help them. It's the same thing for each business that you do. It's the same process, isn't it? It may feel that you're starting again each time, but I'm sure, you know, you've learned a lot that you're taking with you for the next time.
Yes, I would say so, definitely.
What would you say is the best bit about what you do now?
Okay, well, the best bit about doing what I doing now is that I love it. I have passion for it, and I have a purpose. And the second bit about which is I love, is the fact that I can work my week around what I want to do. So, you
flexibility.
know, it's absolutely very flexible, and holidays and things like that. I would say that would be the best bit. Yeah.
And I can't believe these interviews go by so quickly, but I think we're going to have to wrap it up now. But Jo, finally, if you had one piece of advice to offer people who are thinking of, you know, starting their own business, what would that one piece of advice be?
I would say go and speak to somebody who's in the know on the financial side. If you're going to be going self-employed, speak to, and you haven't done it before, get good advice from an accountant. You can even, HMRC even have little courses that you can go on to find out more about this. Something that I wish I had done in the beginning, because I was given duff advice from people who were, you know, doing the same course as me. So yeah, that was what I would give the advice around. But the other thing is, if it's niggling you and nagging you and you're thinking, shall I do this, shall I do this, and it's just not going away, just galvanize yourself and take that first step and just, you know, look into it and do it. Because if it's niggling you, it's got to come out, you know. It
never goes away, does it? That's the thing. You can try pushing it down, but it always sort of rises to the top, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And there's no point in fighting it.
Give in, surrender. Okay, Jo, well, look, thank you so much. It's been lovely to talk to you. And yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to put all your details underneath this video, so that if people want to find out more about you, they can. So once again, thanks so much, Jo.
Thank you, Karen. I've enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Bye for now.
Bye.